Good morning, and welcome to Wisdom Wednesday podcast with your host, Dr. Mary Seegers. Here it is, the third Wednesday of August already, and we've been discussing the 8th month checkup. But you know the drill. Before we get started, grab your coffee cup, mm, or perhaps you want water, juice, and join in on the conversation. I am so excited today. I have a wonderful guest today, a phenomenal woman. And I want her to share how she does her 8 month checkup with her ministries, with her business. And so before that, let me introduce and welcome my guest. How you doing this morning, Dr. Portia Lockett? Welcome.
Amen. I'm blessed by the best, just like you, Sister Mary.
Oh, I appreciate you. I am so
Yes.
honored to have you here. I tell you, it's just been a great time to meet you and to know you. I know you're an authentic and powerful woman. So let me share with the audience a little bit more about this wonderful woman. She's an author, a speaker, a grief recovery method specialist. We'll talk more about that. A spiritual advisor and a chaplain. But not only that, Dr. Portia knew who she was, even at an early age, at the age of 7. Dr. Portia Lockett was clear on her calling. Now, you know that's insight from God. You know, at 7 years old, right? Her calling was teaching and encouraging others, which later evolved into her being a school teacher that inspires students to be their best, regardless of their path. And we need more teachers like that. But not only that, that was just the beginning of her professional journey, because eventually she transitioned into speaking and training for major corporations and nonprofit organizations, which included but not limited to UAWGM, Chrysler, Goodwill Industry, McDonald's, State of Michigan mental health conferences, and the third district drug court, and on and on. And I love how she just offered her gifts to the people in need. Not only that, she has received several awards and um, accolades, and her most recent includes the City of Detroit, a Spirit Award, the Michigan Chronicles Woman of Excellence, and the Career Master winning Spirit Award. Lockett is the co-author of Anointed Moments meditational CD and Amazon's #1 seller, Delayed But Not Denied, too, and feature lyric writing and psalmist of Happy Birthday, Jesus. I can go on and talk about this powerhouse, but I'll just want to say officially welcome. And can you add any more to that, to that wonderful resume, so my audience just get a glimpse of who you are?
I'm just a lover, of God's people. And I was just having a conversation earlier with someone, and I said, I just want people to feel comfortable and feel blessed when they're in my presence. I just try to radiate the glow of God. The intention, of the Holy Spirit is to be a blessing to everyone that crosses my path, regardless of whether it's a conversation, whether it's just a glance, whether it's a hug, whether it's an exchange of something that needs to take place, of course, led by the Holy Spirit. Yes.
And that happens every time I see you. So it's all true. And I thank you for that. You just being authentic and being real. This
Yeah.
month on the podcast, we were talking about 8 month checkups, like putting your finger on the pulse. When we started out, like at the beginning of this year, or probably the last quarter of last year, we made plans and projected targets for this 2024, correct? In our ministries, in our business, in our entrepreneur pursuits. So I was just thinking about how are we coming along with those things that we've written down, or our plans and our goals. And so sometimes it's good to know that to do a checkup. We go for our physical checkup every year. At least we should. I know if you live in the north, I check my husband get my tires checked, make sure it's ready for the winter. And so we do those things naturally. But what about for our ministry? What about for our business? So I just want to share with you, or have you share your wisdom. How do you do your checkup? Here it is, the 8th month of 2024, going down to the last quarter. So I know you've done some phenomenal things in 2024, and you're not even through yet. But what
Right.
do you take a checklist? How do you what do you do? Can you share that with us?
Sure. At the beginning of the year, I'm always, having those moments when I'm just sitting down and to be still, because the word of God says to be still and know that I'm God. So if I allow him to be the God that he is, then, I just take notes. And so as I'm having my conversations through meditation and prayer, the things that I hear in my spirit, I begin to just write those things down, and then later on I go back and prioritize, those items of what it is, that I'm supposed to do, who I'm supposed to connect with, who I'm supposed to be in alignment with, who am I supposed to support, when am I supposed to just be still and be quiet to listen more, to make sure that I have clarity. I think sometimes we move so fast that we don't stop to get clarification and get godly wisdom because we're not good at everything. So, sometimes you have to reach out to other people to just say, hey, I've got this assignment, but I need your support. I need your help. I need some wisdom from someone that may be doing something very similar to the assignment that I have been given. And then once I determine, what the priorities are, then I begin to work backwards. I begin to visualize what I want it to look like. So, for example, we're here in August, and with my foundation, with the Advisor and Lockett Foundation, I'll start there. At the beginning of the year, I knew that we're going to only have 4 major events this year.
Mhm.
And so our goal was to be able to look back and say, at the end of September, what does it look like? How many lives will we impact? What influence did we leave on other individuals? Who do we want to connect with? Who do we want to be a part of our storytelling? Who do we want to be a part of our mental health panel? Who do we want to be there? What do we want? I mean, what do we want it to look like completely? And then working back and then asking again, God, who is supposed to be on the panel? Who's supposed to, so I'm always going back and say, well, God, you told me to do this. So who was supposed to do it?
Right.
And most of our programs that we have, you will notice, you've been there, that we have different people doing different things all the time, from everything from who we use in terms of our videographer. We try to be able to support people who are in business, individual in business, they're entrepreneurs, and so we try to support a little bit of everybody. If it's someone that is in the mental health industry, we try to utilize different individuals to be able to get them exposure. So when people say, what, I'm looking for a therapist, I'm looking for a counselor, they can say, well, wow, we came to the Advisor and Lockett Foundation permission series, and they were on the panel, and what I heard them say was something that resonated with my spirit. I think they would be somebody I need to be able to connect with. So when you're taking a look at all this, and then you step back and just say, okay, let me do some surveys to see what the feedback was. Because sometimes, even though we're on assignment, we need to get feedback from those people who were in attendance or those people who we were partnering with. What can we do better? What can we do to take our assignment to the next level?
That is so powerful. I love how you say get clarity because we get so excited about it, as you're writing it down and you're projecting it how it's going to be. But if you get clarity, the next steps and all of that, that's powerful. So I know people are appreciating you when you said that. One thing I'm sure we can attest to during the pandemic, we learned how to pivot, how to make
Yes.
how to be flexible. Did you find yourself doing that either in your ministry or in the foundation, which is a phenomenal foundation? Would you just talk about that a little more? Did you have to do some of that to get back on track, to get back on target, how you want it to be?
Absolutely, because you know what? At the beginning of COVID, I was doing a lot of FaceTimes and Instagram lives, with people just talking about different things that we needed to do to stay abreast of the resources that we had as we were going through this whole pandemic. We couldn't come together, but we didn't have to disconnect. We were doing things to stay connected. And this was before the foundation. So again, I would have different mental health experts, and talking specifically about grief and keeping people abreast of the fact that grief does not necessarily have to be the loss of a person. It could be the loss of period. So some people were experiencing the loss of loved ones, and some people were experiencing the loss of a pet, loss of mobility, loss of the ability to be able to interact, loss of businesses. Children were losing the ability to socialize in school, to go out and play, to go to the library, to go to the movies, to go get your hair done. There were so many things that we were accustomed to doing and we just take for granted. You know, everything had shifted. And so we had to do a lot of pivoting, period, regardless of whether we wanted to or not. We had to take that pivot. We had to do some different things differently. Even with the ministry, even with the church, when they said you couldn't go to church, you know, everybody started doing ministries online,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Now most of the churches our back. And some of the churches never went back to in place in-house prayers,
Mhm.
in-house services. And so there was a lot of pivoting that was taking place now, during that time. And so even out of that, in healthcare, I work in the healthcare industry, as well. And so, how we took care of our patients. People having to wear the mask and wearing the gloves, and people couldn't go in to visit their loved ones. And so, well, how do I know what's going on? Those phone calls that typically wouldn't take place because of HIPAA. And so now being able to communicate with that person who has the final say, or you have entrusted to be your advocate for you when you can't advocate for yourself. All of those things changed tremendously.
Yeah. Wow.
Period.
That
Right?
is true, right? That is so true.
Yeah. Going out to dinner, hanging out with your girlfriends. We couldn't go get our hair done, nails done big. All that just shifted. And so, I was one of those persons, when it all happened, I eliminated anything out of my life that was not essential.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so when you say essential, what did I really need? I needed to have my food. I cut off all of my hair. I released all my nails. I released my lashes, all those things that typically enhance our God given beauty. It
Right.
wasn't essential for me at that time. And so you just release it.
You
And
do.
sometimes, even in the midst of that, you have to release individuals, out of your life.
It's true.
When I was younger, my mother used to always say, you're going to always maybe have a handful of friends, period, that you can count on to depend on. And for me, I'm blessed because I've got two hands of friends, that I can really call at any given time and just say, hey, I need this. What do you think about that? I need your support. I need you to bless me, or, I need your help, or whatever it is. And so even that group of individuals sometimes changes.
That's true.
God showed us some wonderful things about ourselves. And so it was a time for us to be able to look in the mirror and say, hey, I need to make some changes, to myself,
Mm.
making sure that checkups from the neck up, not just the physical being. I remember going to the dentist,
Oh,
and
mhm.
one of the questions they asked, because, you couldn't just walk in,
Right,
they
right.
gave a form to fill out. And it
Mhm.
basically said, have you been around anybody who had COVID?
Right. That was one of the.
I work in a hospital setting, and I answered the question, yes. And
Uh-huh.
so they told me they couldn't see me. And I was just like, wow, okay.
Right,
So, and I had to accept because everybody was doing business. This COVID thing was new. And so I had to respect, how they wanted to operate, their business. But I
right.
thought about it. Everybody's been exposed. So
Everybody.
if you had to go to the grocery store,
Hmm.
you probably passed by somebody, probably touched something that somebody had already touched. If you had to go mail some things off at the mail at the postal services,
Yes.
you're constantly, engaging with people, but yet disengaging.
Yes. The 6 feet.
There's so
Remember,
many
six
different
feet
things.
was the distance.
Yeah,
Marking on the floor. I still see it in some of the places.
absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, we did a lot of pivoting, during that time. And I think, just in life, we have to be open to pivot, period.
It's true.
We may have our own plans, our business plans, our spiritual, mental, emotional, physical plans, but at the end of the day, is it God's plan?
There it is. That's right. I'm just looking at some of the comments on Facebook that I want to share. They say grief is not just the loss of a loved one, it's the loss of, and I like she just repeating after what you just said. And it's true. Even some people could lose their hope, lost their hope, and that's so or despondent when they get so despondent, they just lost all their hope. So that could be even grieving too. Would you not agree with that, Dr. Portia?
Absolutely. There's so many different, components to it. You think about when someone gets diagnosed with a chronic illness,
Hmm.
you're not really sure how to handle that. Nowadays you just hear so many different people who are experiencing, for whatever reason, cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancer, and it doesn't necessarily have to have an age on it. It used to be a time when, when people would have strokes and heart attacks, you would be like 65, 70, you would be older. But now we're finding that people are transitioning, getting sick, and we're not knowing where this is all coming from. It's like it's some crazy juice being dropped from, it's environmental, I do believe,
I do
that
believe
there's some
it.
things that are going on,
Yes.
in our environment
Hmm.
that are taking us through that path of being unhealthy. And
Yeah.
so we have to take ownership of that and make sure that we're doing everything that we can possibly do to take care of ourselves. We have to own ourselves because if we don't take care of ourselves, it's hard to take care of anybody else, right? So self-care starts with us. You often see signs that says self-care does not mean that you're being selfish. You're just making a choice to
Yes.
take better care of yourself.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so we talk about grieving again. We think about we can't travel. People who are retired just say, now I want to travel to see the world. We can't do that travel like we used to. It looks completely different. Every time you turn on the news, you see someone having a mental breakdown and acting out on a flight.
I
We
know.
see that more often. We never heard about that before.
That's true.
So there's a lot of different things that are going on in our environment which are causing people to act abnormal. There's a lot of people who have not been diagnosed, misdiagnosed, undiagnosed, and also been diagnosed, but they're not doing the proper measures to take care of their mental well-being.
Yes. Mentioning that, that is so real. I mean, people, I know it in my family years ago, they wouldn't talk about it. Well, what happened to Uncle Bubba? Well, he's a little slow, or they would never discuss and try to even help remedy his problem. But there was like a taboo, and they were almost ashamed of it. He had some mental illness. He really did, but they didn't talk about it. And so now in 2024, we need to recognize that is just like if you have cancer, as the mental illness is part of, and it can be cured. I mean, there's different things when you're in the medical field. I'm right that you can see a therapist, maybe take medication or whatever. I mean, why is it such a taboo thing, to talk about that?
Mhm. Well, you know what? It was just one of those back in the day things. It's like whatever the problem was, we're just going to pray about it. But I
Mhm.
truly believe that God has given us other additional tools and resources to be able to deal with it.
Mhm.
A lot of times when you are talking with a therapist or a counselor, they discover that there's some unaddressed grief that was never dealt with before, which is causing you or causing one person to be able to be in this situation where they can't move forward, they can't heal because they haven't healed from past hurts. So, for example, something like this, I know there was a time when a young lady or young man may have been molested, right? But
Yeah.
nobody wanted to talk about it. So we're going to pray about it. You're going to move forward. You're not the first one that got molested. You're not going to be the last one that got molested, but nobody even dealt with that whole situation, right? And so now there's so many things that are coming out
Mhm.
that are being exposed.
Yeah.
Not only just about molestation, but now you can get help. You can get those resources. You can go and talk to a counselor. You can go and talk to a therapist.
Mhm.
And yes, you're not the only one, but now how can we get those individuals help? How can they learn how to forgive and move forward? Doesn't mean you're going to forget, but forgive that person so
Mhm.
that you're not holding it on, yourself. You're not taking ownership of it like it was your fault or something. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
so, there's so many different components to it. Past hurts of not being able to have both parents in the household because parents just decided not to be together anymore. It was looked up very sadly, if people got divorced. It was even stated, if there is a man in the home, then your mother wouldn't get that certain aid that financial aid. So then that took away the home atmosphere, that collaboration of two parents raising children together.
Mhm.
There was
Wow.
a lot of hurt that took place, then that we just don't talk about. Now it's like, you make up your mind, we can't make it. We can go get a divorce now.
That's
But at
right.
the same time, what impact does that put on us? What impact does it put on our children? And what impact does it put on generations that are yet to come? Now the conversation is being had. You don't have to stay in a toxic environment.
Yes. Oh, that's powerful.
Once you have given your all and you've got okay by God, it's okay to walk away.
That's
And
right.
it's okay. This is not okay. So what do I need to become healthy and whole, mind, body, and soul? And so if it means separating, if it means parting,
Right.
you have to do what's best for you. And everybody's situation is different. We can never say, I would never. You
Never.
never know what you're going to do in any given situation.
That's right. Until you're in that situation, you're right. But as you were talking, Dr. Portia, it made me think about my own husband. He, at an early age, they had trauma. in their family, and the mother died, and so they moved in with their grandparents who were older, and so they went like to be poor, and just, and he never used to talk about that, and as we got older, he started talking about his feelings, how at 8 years old, and he was the eighth child of 10, so all those kids with the older people raising them, it was very hard for them, and he had a lot of childhood misery, if you will, but he got through it, but he never talked about it. He should have, they all should have probably had some counseling, back then. I should have thought, and after, you're thinking about the 2020 hindsight, But yeah, he finally, and the rest of the family members, they never talked about it, but they knew mom is gone now, and I'm living with my grandfather, and we don't have food to eat, we don't have shoe, so it was a lot of hardship and a lot of pain, but they survived. Some of them went to drugs because they didn't know how to handle that. But yeah, he talks about it now, and so had he gotten help back then, even his siblings, it might have been a different situation. Some of those might not have got on drugs to cope with stuff like that, because it was very traumatic. Their mother got killed, and so it was heartbreaking for them, for young kids. But now there's help. There's no need to hide or to not to talk about it. Things you just forget about it because you're not going to forget about it. Right? Wow. So that's dealing with that grief like that. He never had time to deal with the grief. And so, but he's overcome that now. I guess he's overcome that now. He's doing much better. Yeah.
Good, 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 good. Mhm.
And just like we were saying, how you do your checkups for your physical body, do your checkup for your business. What other steps can you talk about how a person can, like I said, get clarity, revamp or rechange or change or modify, even eliminate some things? A lot of times we have these lofty goals at the beginning of the year. We're going to do 12 seminars or 12 whatever, and it doesn't turn out that way. Instead of being discouraged, adjust and maybe even change, modify, delete. How would you advise an entrepreneur or a ministry to do those kind of things?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, surround yourself with people who are going to be contributors to your success, who actually believe in your vision and
Mm.
your mission.
Yes.
And that's very, very key. And then revisiting,
Mm.
what your priorities are. What are your goals? Sometimes they need to change.
Mm.
Look at the climate. Look at your audiences. Is my audience still the same? Is that who in the audience that God wants me to be speaking to at this time? As you mentioned, there was a time when I first started off, teaching. I was working with children, and I know how to stay in my lane. Now, yes, I can go and talk to children, and I go to talk to children on a regular basis. But is that my primary audience? Is that where really God wants me to be right now?
Yes.
Because it changes,
It does.
right?
It does.
And so when you're looking at your mission, sometimes our mission needs to change. Where
Hmm.
do I need to be here? you
Yeah.
know am I still supposed to be speaking? Am I traveling? What am I doing right now? At the beginning, when you gave a little bit of my bio, and people often ask me, Portia, how do you do all these different things? It's like, I'm going to always say I'm led by the Spirit. I mean, a few months ago I had an opportunity to be in a position,
Mhm.
and it was going to take on some additional responsibilities from what I'm doing right now. And I
Mhm.
was really excited because I got this invitation. I'm just like, wow, this is great. They want me to be a part of this organization. And I'm like, I'm already a part of it. So I kind of get a little glimpse of what it's all about. And now I'm like, wow, this is great. So I remember sharing it, with a few people, and they were just like, wow, this is great. But after I sat down and I really prayed about it,
Mhm.
I could hear God saying, not now,
Oh,
not now. Because if I add on one more thing, and
mhm.
you'll probably do a good job at it, but I don't want you to just do good. I want you to do great. And so sometimes when we have too many things on our plate, we do good at all of the stuff. But
Mhm.
I believe that God is calling us to a space, a place of being great at what we're doing.
Mhm.
And that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
I often tell people that, when my name gets called and my assignment is complete here on earth, I really want something that says U to the second power BG. And that means I'm used up by God, meaning that every assignment that I had, I did it, I executed it in excellence. So if I'm going to be excellent at my assignment, then that means then all the other little things that are out here just saying, do me, do me, do me, come pray a part of this. I
Right.
just have to just, you know what? I got to stay focused. I got to
Yes.
stay focused on this assignment. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to help other people and do other things, but for the main part of my assignment, I have to stay focused. And that's what I encourage people to do. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, stay focused,
That's
because sometimes we're looking at our peripheral vision and we see everything that everybody else is doing. When we look at and start comparing ourselves to what people are doing on social media, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Threads, all those other things. And
Mhm.
we start, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, maybe I should do this. And then we get confused. And that's the same way with our spirit. When you're focused, on your ministry and who you are choosing to be your lead, you have to be very, very careful about listening to other messages. Be very intentional about what you allow to come into your spirit. Now, what I'm not saying, you can't listen to anybody else, but
Yeah.
who is going to be your primary leader? Who's going to be your shepherd? Who's
Mhm.
going to keep you covered?
Yes. Yes.
That's important,
It's
you
powerful.
know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And like you said, that's when confusion sets in. But if you're focused, it reminds me of that horse, they'd be in the parade. I remember when I was a young girl, we used to go down to the parade. And I said those horses had those little blinders on because they could be distracted by, the kids saying, look at the horse, But if we say laser blade focus, you know what I mean? And sometimes that's what we have to do so we can just, as you said, those peripheral, we'll be looking around. But if we stay so focused, and that
Mhm.
gives us clarity to it, as you said earlier. So when you're
The
focused,
other thing,
go
yeah,
ahead.
the other thing I was going to say, there's so many different programs that are out now. If you're starting your ministry, or if you're starting your business,
Mm-hmm.
Google support help for new businesses,
Mm-hmm.
because there are so many different programs that will pull you in and just say, hey, let us help you get started. Here are some do's and don'ts of starting a new business. Here are some do's and don'ts of starting a new ministry. I remember years ago, I went on a missions trip over to Jamaica, and the whole premise was to help new ministries get started. So if I remember correctly, they had to be about 30 or 40 different ministries that were spread out. And
Yes.
so they came together for a conference to say, these are some things that you need to be able to have in place before you even get started.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody's ministry is a little bit different, just like everybody's business is a little bit different. I
Mm-hmm.
don't believe there is a one cookie cutter way to do everything,
Right.
because everything for everybody. And because God made us uniquely and wonderfully made, when you're unique, that means you're different. That means you're set apart. So what's going to set you apart in business? Because there are a lot of people that are out here selling shoes. What's different about your shoe store?
Mm-hmm.
What's different about your clothing store? What's different about your bookstore? Whatever it is that you're trying to sell, what is going to make you different? Why should I come to you
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to going over here where I've been going for, a number of years? What sets you apart? What sets you different? And so as you're starting that business, what experience do you want people to have walk away from the experience?
Ooh, yes,
And that
yes,
could be
yes.
anything. It could be, you could be a doctor. So if you open up a brand new doctor's office,
Mm-hmm.
what do you want people to say when they walk away after that 2 hour initial conversation? Do you want them to say, I felt rushed? I didn't feel like they really met my needs. My doctor wasn't hearing me. He just said, do this, do that, or she wasn't listening to me. What sets you apart from being completely different in that restaurant experience? Is it the taste of the food? Is it the wait staff? What was the environment? Were the restrooms clean? What was different? What was unique? And so, again, starting your business, starting your ministry, what's going to set you apart?
Powerful, powerful. Yes, yes. I know that, and that's so important. Sometimes we don't look at that, those things. I just know I got a business. I just know I got a mission to do. I just got a ministry to start. But if you get step back and allow God to impart some of those things and the resources available. I love how you said you can go to Google and get the support, and check with
Don't
some.
move too quick.
That's right. Don't move too quick, right? Don't be
Take
hasty.
your time. Yeah, I remember years ago when I was stepping out on faith, starting my business, and I knew I was having this spiritual conversation, and I remember going to my boss, and I just said, I've been having this dialogue with the spirit, and I'm going to be starting my own business, and this is what I'm going to be doing, whatever, and I think like about 2 weeks after I did that, I said, well, I've got this insurance. I'm going to go get all my checkups. Well, at one of the checkups, they discovered that I needed to have some surgery.
Mm,
They found something that was not a desirable thing to have in your system, right? And
yes.
so I remember going back to my boss and I
Mhm.
said, look, I know what I told you. I know I turned in my resignation paper, so forth and so on, but I need to stay on a little while longer because this is what's going on with me and I need to be able to have this procedure.
Mhm.
And he told me, he said, I never turned in your paperwork to human resources. He said, we would love to have you come back and stay as long as you needed to stay.
Yes.
And then what happened was there was a client that I had. I was in radio sales at this time. And there was a client that never advertised with me. And I don't even know why this person, this organization, this company was on my list. And they kept saying, continue to go out there and take those packages, eventually they're going to buy. So this went on for years. And so eventually, one day I got a call and they said, we just had a incident. And it was Ford, and it was Ford Wixom plant. They had an explosion, and so they had to tell all of their folks not to come to work. And all the messages said was attention, attention. If you work at Fort Wixom plant, do not, I repeat, do not return to work until further notice. So this went on for a while. And then they had to tell the message if your first shift come back, if your second shift come back, if your third shift come back, all these different messages that were going out. So basically by them coming on as a new client at that particular time, they were spending an elaborate amount of money to get this message out to all of their folks, right?
Right.
And so when I looked at the commission that I made from just that one client, it set me up for a year, be able to pay my bills for a year
Yes.
without having to worry about anything.
Look at God.
And so God was saying, just wait a minute, because you're getting ready to step out and now you're going to pay your bills.
Right. Right.
What?
Right. 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 Yeah.
And at this particular time, I was married. And so when I went home and I told my husband, I said, I feel like I'm supposed, he's like, okay, and what about your half? Because we did everything together.
Mhm.
We were a good team
Uh,
financially in
yeah.
other ways as well. And so by listening and pausing and
Yes.
putting my plan on the break and listening to God,
Mm,
everything ended up working out well.
that's
And to this
powerful.
day, I still have a wonderful relationship, with, my former managers,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know,
Didn't burn that bridge. Never burn a bridge, right?
because you never know when you're going to have to cross it, or
That's
you never know when you're going to have that person. This, when I was teaching school, and I would tell my sons this all the time, you
right.
know, always treat people kindly. Always be honest.
Yes.
Never allow anything or anyone to take anything away from your character or your level of integrity.
Mhm.
Because that person, I guarantee you, you're going to cross that path again. So it may be that person who's going to give you that loan when you go to the bank, but they may have that reflection of back when you guys were in high school and you were teasing them or
Right.
bullying them.
That's
You never
right.
know what's on
Ooh.
the other side, something that you need. And
Hmm.
even as adults, we
Yeah.
have to really be careful
Yeah.
about how we treat other individuals. You never know what's going on behind the mask.
That's right.
During COVID, we had masks on top of the mask,
Right.
but we
Right.
sure, seriously, we
Yeah.
really have to be sure of how we treat other individuals
Oh,
and
true.
asking ourselves, is there something differently I should have done? Is there something differently I should have said in that conversation? And it's okay to go back and just say, you know what? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I said something to you that I'm not proud of, and I may have hurt you. Please accept my apology. And that makes you such a bigger person
It does.
when you're able to go back. You can't rewind the tape. You can't take back what you said.
Mm-mm. No.
Go back and apologize. And it's okay to say, I forgive you. Forgiveness is not about that other person, it's really about you. And so on a regular basis, I do this exercise where I forgive myself because sometimes we allow things to happen to us or we embrace nonsense,
Yeah.
right? So I said, Portia, today I'm going to forgive myself and everybody else so that I can move on. Because if we stay stuck in that place of unforgiveness,
Oh, yes.
it's very hard to move forward with your next assignment. And
Yes.
sometimes you may not be given another assignment until you have learned the assignment that you're on.
That's true. As you were saying that, I thought about this book I just recently finished, and I probably need to reread it again. It's by John Maxwell about the high road leadership. And so we just like Michelle said it, when they go low, we go high. And so it's just always trying to stay above and not to belittle people and to value people. And if we have that kind of mindset, we don't always have to apologize. We're doing the right thing at the right time, the first time. So it just reminded me how we gotta don't get in the gutter with mama said, don't go in the gutter with the other people. You just stay at your level of integrity and that would help us a long way, right? I'm looking again on the Facebook. Someone said when my parents divorced, my sister and I were very young. My parents weren't the only ones feeling separated. She said, "I just thank God you were in the Word. If it wasn't for the Word, no telling where my sister and I would be." So she was just saying how that was like a loss to them, having the parents no longer together. So there's a lot of different ways about loss and grief, but we look at it so singly, a loss of a loved one all the time. Like you said, a pet. I have friends who are their pet is their family. That's who they loved and they love them.
Mm-hmm.
We get that concept thinking, loss can be so much more than what we always projected it to be. I could talk to you for days and days. Are there any events that's coming up with your foundation you want to share with the audience and share that information, how they could reach out to you if you don't mind?
Oh, absolutely. Well, yes, absolutely. We have our second annual anniversary for the Azelle Benet Lockett Foundation, and we're going to be celebrating on Saturday, September the 7th. And this is going to be our annual fundraiser. So when people come to the Azelle Benet Lockett Foundation, they come for several reasons. They need support, they need resources. And so when someone calls us, we're able to provide, counseling, we're able to provide therapy. So for example, if someone calls us and they say, you know what, I need that support, then we have a number of mental health experts and therapists that we can refer them to. Or if they call us and just say, you know what, I accept, the blessing, but I don't have the financial support. And so we make a way to be able to help them with the financial support. Someone may call us and say, you know what, I've just been diagnosed with a chronic illness. I'm no longer able to work. And so what we try to do is help to underwrite a certain amount of their bills, or someone may say, I lost a loved one. We don't have a life insurance policy. Can you help us? And then we'll make a donation towards the bottom line of the cost of the funeral services or the homegoing services that they may need. And so when they call us, and we may not be able to do everything, but we have a large pool of referrals that we can give, to those individuals, when they reach out to us. So on Saturday, September the 7th at 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. We're going to have an amazing speaker. We're going to have amazing food. We're going to have amazing entertainment. We're going to tell you a little bit about the foundation, our mission, what we've done thus far. We're going to do a recap of the permission series that we had with permission to grieve, permission to heal, permission to live and laugh, permission to love again, permission to move forward, and permission to celebrate. We're going to do a recap of all that. We're going to have some testimonies of individuals who have gone through our process and how we've been a blessing to those individuals. And stay tuned because we're going to be doing some additional things on a smaller scale, for the remainder, of the year as well. Stay in contact with me by following me on Facebook, Portia Lockett. And also, I'm trying to get my Instagram back. Somebody hacked me the other weekend. I'm in between there, but I can also be followed on LinkedIn under Dr. Portia Lockett. You can see some of the media that I've been honored to be a part of. You can read some of the blogs that I've written. I also write on a monthly basis with the Michigan Chronicle. Also, if someone is going through a really challenging time and dealing with grief, I created a healing card deck. And every week for 52 weeks, you can choose a card and it will guide you on your healing journey due to the loss of a loved one. And those can be purchased on my website at drportialockett.com. And there's so many other things, downloads that God has given me, today. So the one thing I would say to everybody that is tuned in to this session is that be in tune to your spirit. listen with intent to the assignment that God has given you. If God says go, go. If He says be still, be still. If He says move to the left, move to the right. But the only way that you can know God's voice is to be in tune to His voice and talk to Him on a regular basis so that you know that is His voice and not the voices talking to you.
Wow. Yes, yes, yes. And I tell you, September, is it, how can they get the tickets if they want to go to the event?
Yes, absolutely. You can go right to Eventbrite and put in AZALBENNE Lockett LOCKETT Foundation, the Azale Benet Lockett Foundation Prayer Breakfast. It will come right up.
Awesome. You don't want to miss that event. I tell you, I went to and it's going to be at the Wayne County Community College, right? In Detroit there. So yes. And you want to be there or be square because you will be blessed abundantly and you'll meet this wonderful Dr. Portia Lockett and you'll see her team and you see the good that they're doing to the community for the community. So be sure to check out the Eventbrite to get those tickets
You can
and be
also follow us on azalebenetlocketfoundation.org so that you can keep up with all the things that we're doing. Or if you need support, you can go right and fill out the contact information to stay in contact with us, or you may be in need. azalebenetlocketfoundation.org.
awesome, awesome. So what are some of your plans for 2025? I mean, I'm just so excited. I know 2024 hasn't left yet, but I know it's going to be phenomenal.
Well, one thing that I know that I'm going to do in 2025, I'm going to Ghana in 2025. Yeah, I'm going over there to do uh, a grief series. The grief
Oh,
series is going to Ghana next year, so I'm really excited about that. And I'm just waiting. I hear a lot of different downloads that God wants me to do and participate in, and I'm just kind of like, in wait mode.
yes. And I love that. Wait on the Lord. He'll direct you. He will. Thank you again, Dr. Portia, for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your wisdom and your profound knowledge about grief and about how we can just wait on God and hear from God. So thank you again and have a blessed day. Until next time, we'll see you next month. Be blessed.
Peace and
Bye.
blessings.